Hi guys and welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing my top 15 Christmas DIYs, so let's get started.
Project, you will need 22 clothespins that I picked up at Dollar Tree, and you want to take out the metal part, and it's quite easy to do. You just take some sort of pliers. I'm just using my wire cutters just because I have them on hand, and it comes apart. Then what the next part that you're gonna do is you will hot glue the two pieces kind of opposite to what they were, because as a clothespin they're this way, and you're flipping them and hot gluing them the opposite way. And you do this for all 22 of them. Okay, so now these are all ready. And now you're gonna take the pointy sides and gonna try and make a circle. There, and now we are going to glue them together. Thread this through. Now you could paint this any color you want. You could put glitter on it. I am using it for my rustic tree that I have in my front foyer, which is very natural elements on it, and I'm not gonna do anything.
For my next project, I'm using these wine bottles that I had on hand in my fruit cellar and was no longer using them, as well as some of this nautical rope that had come from Dollarama. It is not it's more like a jute rope, but not quite as thin, but not quite as thick as a nautical rope. Then I am using joy letters from this galvanized set that came from Dollar Tree, and then I just had a snowflake on hand and some red and white acrylic paint. And I will also going to be using hot glue. So without further ado, let's get started. So I have gotten my paint ready, poured it into my little paint tray that also came from Dollarama, and I am going to paint my bottles white, and I'm going to completely cover them. It'll probably take a couple coats, but that's the first step that I'm going to do. Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. And you want your bottles to be cleaned and nothing sticky on them before you start painting. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. So the next step that I'm doing is I'm going to paint my letters and my little snowflake. We'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling. Before I paint them, I'll cut the letters apart. Christmas in my heart.
Santa's coming to visit. No, he wouldn't miss this in Christmas.
Next step is I'm going to wrap this rope around the top of the bottles and using hot glue glue it on.
Blanket with the skyline painted in blue. Ooh, yeah, that's what we do. We'll be chilling and having a good
Next, I'm going to glue my letters and my snowflake on. I'm using Mod Podge, and I decided to use some red glitter on a snowflake.
It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making it. These are the good times with you.
I'm using an artist canvas, reusable bag from Walmart, as well as Mod Podge and stain. You do not need to use the stain. You can also use paint if you do not have any stain. So the first thing that I do is I remove the canvas part from the frame.
Making our Christmas memories. Yes, these are the good times with you. Don't even care what we do if I spend it with you. Just you and nobody else.
Once the frame is free of canvas, I stain it using a rag and this dark walnut stain that I've been using for many other projects. I will link it down below if you want to see what kind of stain it is. I got it at Home Depot.
And to see you again, baby, this year it's just gonna be you and me. Hanging by the fire, chill. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Yeah, I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories.
While the frame is drying, I cut the front part of the bag off. Then I measure out and see where exactly I want my bag to go on the canvas with the frame, mark it off where the frame will go, and then I trim the bag if it needs to be trimmed. And then I measure out again just to make sure, because I want the white canvas to show as a bit of a frame as well, like the backing of the picture frame. And that way I mark it off before I glue it, so then when I'm adding glue I know exactly where the bag will go. Now it's time to add the frame, and I hot glue it to the canvas. I I am adding Mod Podge to the back as well as the front to just make sure that it's on there fully. And the last thing that I do is just trim off the excess canvas that's kind of poking around on the outside, poking out on the outside. I love the way this picture turned out, and I have a perfect spot for it. I am sharing with you a Christmas DIY thrift store makeovers. I will be using some red and white paint, and I had picked up this piece of plaque for $1.99 at Value Village. I will also be using some cutout that I had cut out on my Cricut machine. And I had actually used a dollar store vinyl shelf liner, the white one. I thought I'd give it a try, and I used a fine tip blade and just a regular pressure, and it worked out really, really well. So the very first thing that I do is I'll paint the whole thing with a Christmas red acrylic paint. Once I was done painting it, I let it dry completely before I moved on to another step. And once it was dry, I took some white chalk paint that I had picked up at dollar store and just drew an outline on the edge of the plaque. I gave that a little time to dry, and while that was drying, I weeded out my writing, and I just wrote out Christmas with the Cricut machine. And then I also used the clear shelf liner from the dollar store to transfer it, and I have to say they both worked really well. Then I transferred it onto the plaque, and I just added a little bit more chalk paint to the edging. And here it is. I thought it turned out super cute, and it's one of those ones that I've seen people buy. I think there were some at Hobby Lobby and at Kirkland's, and we don't have any of those stores, so I thought I'd recreate one. For this project, you will need some form of gray paint. I am using any Sloan Paris gray. It's chalk paint. Then I had picked these up at Dollar Tree a while back, and they're just 3 little planters. Then you're gonna need some rope, some form of a rope, and white paint, a paintbrush, something for sponging white paint on, and hot glue. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to paint my pots with gray paint, and I'm going to let them dry. You could probably do this with some spray paint as well. It probably would be a little bit faster. 1 coat will be enough.
Can't forget about the one with the red nose. When I fly.
So the color on these bells dried a little bit lighter than what I originally would have liked. So I'm going to actually add some black and white acrylic paint. And the look that I'm going for is more of a forged metal look. So I'm going to dip in black and in white, and then I'm just going to go over it. I'm actually going to use my stenciling brush. It just might go a bit faster. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry and repeat the same process on these ones, on the other one. And you don't want them to look identical. And it's okay if some of the gray underneath shows. That's the whole point of painting it gray, not leaving it green. So I'm going to let those dry, and there's one more step to them. So I cut up 3 pieces of rope, and I'm going to hot glue each to the top. I'll let these dry.
Baby, this year it's just gonna be you and me. Hang by the fire and chill.
I love Christmas signs, and I especially love farm fresh Christmas tree signs. I don't know if you've noticed that if you watch my channel. So but this one is very simple to make, and I wanted to share something that anybody could make. That you don't need some special supplies besides the printer. So I had picked up this 11 by 16 frame from Dollar Tree, and it does have glass. I just cleaned it and it's drying, so I took the glass off because I'm going to be just adding a little bit of paint to make it look a little bit more rustic than just brown. And for that I'm just using acrylic paint and a brush. And then I had print out this Farm Fresh Christmas tree sign off the internet. Now this is not a design that's just out there. I just pretty much found an image and copied it and printed it. So but you can find tons of different free printables. I can include some of them down in the description box. And then I also pre-cut a piece of poster board to fit inside to fit inside the frame. So, and then you're also going to need Mod Podge. I'm going to do a dry brushing technique. If you're not familiar with what that is you take a paint, and then you need a rag, and then you take some of that paint off so your paintbrush is not very saturated, and then you brush the paint on, because I'm not trying to cover the frame completely. I do want some of that brown to show through.
This won't take long to dry because I am dry brushing it, and I'm brushing it lightly, so it's not gonna take too much at all to dry. These signs can be quite expensive. I'm sure they're better quality than a Dollar Tree frame, but I just, because I like to change out my decor so often, I am on a tight budget, so I like creating all of these, as many as I can myself. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to let it dry completely before I do anything else with it. Now moving on to my frame and my printable, my poster board and my printable. So I got my Mod Podge, and I'm going to take a brush. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to glue this on, and I'm gonna try and center it as much as possible. I'm gonna eyeball it, but you can definitely use a ruler.
It's like they spell your name. It's insane. Now we're back here once again. Holidays and cheer.
There we go. I think that's pretty good. And now I just want to make sure it matches so you don't see the difference that easily. I was gonna use my greenish pencil, but I'm gonna go with a pencil.
Now I got my eye set on you. I'm not gonna play. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories. Oh, and I've been longing to hold you close. Forget about everyone else. Isn't this how it's supposed to be? Making our Christmas memories.
So I think that looks pretty good. It does look like it's one piece. So now I'm going to Mod Podge the rest of it.
It's going down on Christmas Day. 'Cause I've been trying to tell you in every way. Yeah, I've been trying to show you.
So I'm going to let this dry completely before I move on to putting it in the frame. Now I'm going to put my glass in.
I wanna have someone to hold. Walking through the
There we go. And this, it's curled up, so it's a good thing that I am putting it in. And what you can do is you can also put a little tiny piece of tape, which I might do, just so it keeps it in place a little bit better. Thinking I'm gonna put one more piece that it's a little bit more, so it's a little bit more solid at the back. Now, if you have the backing for this, you totally don't have to do this part, but I do not have the backing for it, so that's why I was taping it. And here we go.
You're on top of my list, only wish. And as we decorate the tree.
So for this project, you will need different sizes of mason jars. You will need rope, some sort of berries. I am using this greenery. You can use any greenery you want. Then you need Spectra glitter, which is sparkling crystals. I will link it down below. I got it on Amazon.
And then you need Epsom salt, and I am using tacky glue. So you need a brush, and then you need 2 different plates. One I'm going to use for glue and one I'm going to use for my Epsom salt. So I'm going to mix up my Epsom salt, and you need approximately a cup to 1 tablespoon of the glitter. I'm going to put my glue over here. And you want to make sure that your jars are clean, and you want to do a good amount, but not to the point where it's dripping. And now I'm going to sprinkle some of this salt and crystals. You want to cover it, but you don't want to do too much of it. Going to let it dry. Now I'm gonna repeat it for the other 2.
Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows and the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year
So they're gonna dry now for 24 hours before I finish the project. So now that they had the chance to dry, I'm using some twine, and I'm going to be tying it around the mouth of each jar.
coming to visit. No, he wouldn't miss this.
Now the next step, I'm going to take apart that berry wreath that I had, and I'm going to attach the little leaf and berries onto the twine with hot glue.
Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows and the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends.
Now I'm gonna repeat the same process for the rest of them.
Doesn't matter, it's Christmas in my heart.
Here they are, all finished. I think they look stunning with the tea lights in them. You can buy the ones that are battery operated, so you don't have to worry about leaving them on. I am starting off with this Dollar Tree crate. I will be using a stain. You can also use acrylic paint if you don't wish to use the stain. This is the Veritane Ultimate Wood Stain in dark walnut. Then you're gonna need some white paint. I am using these stencils that I picked up last year from Dollar Tree, and I will be using these little stars, kind of makeshift snowflakes a little bit. And then I will be cutting an image out from Cricut, and I will also be using some bottle brush trees. But the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to stain this with this stain. It's all on its almost last legs, not much left, but there's still enough for my today's projects. So I'm just going to rub that on. So this does not take very long to dry. I'm just going to go in the little crevices, I'm gonna go try and do that with a brush, but we'll see how that works out, because I do not want it to be too dark. I think that's pretty good, and I'm just using angled brush. And you can always wipe off any extra stain. There we go. Now I'm going to go and cut out my image on my Cricut machine. You can also just stencil something if you don't have a Cricut machine, or put a sticker, or just leave it as is. For the design, I'm using Cricut Design Space, and I just choose a design that suits me. You also want to measure out your crate to know the size of the design that you're gonna cut out, so that way it fits right in. I am using the white shelf liner from Dollar Tree just to give it a try, see how it works out, and I'm using my Cricut Maker to cut the design out.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo.
So there you go. And I don't think I'm gonna use the little snowflakes, because I do love it just the way it is, but I'm going to add just a little bit of Mod Podge in case, because of these hollow lines. I'm worried that it's gonna not gonna stick to very well, so I'm just going to, as an extra step, add a layer of Mod Podge on here. If you love Christmas DIYs, and this, or any DIYs for that matter, and this is your first time stopping by my channel, make sure you head on over to my Christmas DIY playlist, where you will find tons of DIYs. I've been working on them since end of October, so there's a good selection of them in that playlist. Okay, so that's done now, and now for the inside. I have a couple of these bottle brush trees, and I'm just debating which size to use and how to use them. I think this will be perfect. And here's the crate. I absolutely love the way this crate turned out. The lettering looks really good against the stain, and I love the trees in it. For my next DIY, I picked up the 3 of these wooden Christmas trees, and I have cut up just some wood from my yard, from my garden to use. And you will also need hot glue for this. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to stain these. I'm not gonna use the base. And I'm going to use the same stain as I did for the crate.
I've been busy decking the halls. I've been kind to big and small, and now it's time to have a merry house. the feeling when it's
These won't take long to dry because I'm not putting a heavy coat on them. I'm going for a very rustic farmhouse theme this year, using a lot of natural elements in my house and some of my rooms, and I think this will be a perfect addition to my decor. They're done. And now for these, I was considering doing a little dent in the wood so these little ends would sit better, but I'm worried about not having it straight enough and then my trees not being straight, so I decided just to go ahead with just hot glue. You could also use wood glue if you want it to be more of a permanent thing, but I'm just gonna go with a hot glue for now.
are coming true, that's why I cheer. I've been busy decking the halls, I've been kind to big and small.
You're gonna have to hold these in place until the hot glue kind of dries.
When it's time for Christmas, let's sing a carol and we'll bring it here. Let's sing a carol and we'll bring it here.
Okay, one last step that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with a brush and just do a bit of a stain just so it's not so white on here, so light. And I'll go put the stain around the hot glue as well. Just so you know, when you're wiping, you'll wipe off the hot glue, so you might want to go a little bit over it after. Here are the trees. I think they turned out really cute and gonna look great in my decor. I am using this Dollar Tree fabric, a large mason jar lid, just the middle part. These picture frames that have the galvanized metal, some twine or rope. So you will need 3 of these, and then I'm also using the joy letters. Now for these letters, I will be cutting them. Okay, but because these are white, galvanized, and galvanized they won't show, I am going to just paint them white with my white acrylic paint. And I'm not gonna be like perfect. I want them to look a little bit messy. So I think that will be good, just like that.
Happier than I have ever been. It's safe to say that my love for you is true. Tomorrow it is.
Now I'm going to trace my lid, but I want to be able to get most of the car in it.
Just us and no one else. I've decorated everything till we're perfect for this week. Tomorrow it is Christmas.
And now I'm going to add Mod Podge on the front and on the bottom and the top.
'Cause all I wanna do is spend this holiday with you. Tomorrow it is Christmas, the first for me and you.
It's not a bad idea to have a specific paintbrush just for Mod Podge. That way you never run into an issue where maybe you didn't wash your paintbrush well enough and then the paint comes off on it. So now, just to clean it up a little bit, I'm going to hot glue this rope to the edge. So that will be my O. And then my J. And my Y. I think the joy sign turned out really cute, and I love how rustic it looks. Using these Christmas ornaments that I had picked up a while ago from Dollar Tree, some of the bottle brush trees, some paint, some fake snow, and some branches and berries. And first thing that I'm gonna do is I wanted to give the lids, the plastic lids, a bit of a galvanized look, so I end up painting them with black and then following over them with the silver paint. And I'm using a foam brush to sponge the black on, and then I'm gonna use my stenciling brush to brush on the silver. So once that was done and dried, I take my bottle brush tree and just measure out where I need to cut it, so that way I can glue it and it sits nicely inside of that plastic part, the clear plastic part. And again, you kind of just have to hold it in place until it's set. Once that's in there, I repeat the same process for the other tree.
Christmas lights are all around. I can see them now. It's like this.
I give them a little bit more time to dry, just so that way the glue is completely dry before I move on to another step. And while that's drying, I'm going to arrange the top for the top of my ornament, where I add my greenery and my berries. And I like to give the little pine branches a trim. They just look much better if those little pine needles are shorter. So now they are fully dried, I assemble the ornament. I take some of this fake snow and pour it inside the clear part of the ornament, and then I screw on the part with the lid that has the Christmas tree on it, the bottle brush tree on it, and I repeat that for both of them. And then while I was doing this, I kind of thought of another idea, so I will show you what I do with the last one. I'm not gonna paint the lid just so I don't repeat the same process over again, but I thought this one looked really cute. So instead of a tree, I'm going to add this pine cone, and you just have to make sure that the pine cone fits perfectly onto the lid, so that way you can put the top part of the ornament on. I would also like to say that if you're stopping by my channel for the very first time, welcome. My name is Sonja and this is my DIY channel. I have 2 other channels which will be linked in the description box if you would like to check them out. But on this channel you will find tons of seasonal DIYs, furniture makeovers, as well as trash to treasures.
Through the winter night, thinking of my only wish. I don't need a perfect snowman, and I don't need the bells and boughs, but I'll be home for you. I'll be home for you. And I'll be home for you. I'll be home for you.
So here they are, and I think they look so cute. They have that farmhousey, rustic look to them. Today I'm going to be making a super fun project. I think it is anyways, using a stencil that I just cut out from Cricut. Now you don't, I always say you don't need to use a stencil. It definitely makes a project go a lot smoother, but I will link the website where I got the free SVG for this, and I just cut it up, resized it and cut it on an old file folder. That way if I want to reuse it for anything else, I can. It's just a little bit more I guess reusable than vinyl. Vinyl probably works better because it sticks to the surface, so you just have to be a little bit more careful with this one when you are stenciling. So I will take apart the stencil in a minute, but let me just go and let you know what else I'm using. So I have this wrapping paper that I picked up at dollar store, and it looks like butcher paper. And then I have some old toilet paper rolls and a paper towel roll, hot glue gun, black paint, and actually I'm thinking I might I'm gonna stick with black paint. I was thinking maybe doing Christmas trees in green, but I will do it with black paint just to stick to original plan, and just something to put your paint on, and a stenciling brush, a knife, crafting knife for your stencil if you need it, and scissors to cut the butcher paper if I need. Well, I definitely need to. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart my stencil. This is the project that inspired mine, and I'm trying to somewhat recreate it. And as you can see, the cost of this project is $62, and I just think that I can make it for a lot less, like pretty much $1, because I had everything else in hand, but definitely under $5. And I am just new to this Cricut machine, and I got I did watch a tutorial, but I always forget to link these up, so I always have to use a bit of a tape for that. Not a big deal.
We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
isn't that amazing? In Christmas times, we'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling.
Now I'm going to cut my paper to size. And I'm just going to cut it and make it a little shorter so it's not as wide.
Hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing? In Christmas times, we'll be chilling.
So I'm going to take my rolls now and I'm going to glue them just to keep form.
Windows in the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends.
I'm gonna use 2 here and then 1 whole one on top. To secure it so it doesn't unroll, I'm just going to put some hot glue there and there so that way it holds it in place. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom.
I can promise Santa's coming to visit. No, he wouldn't miss this in Christmas times. Oh, and the sun said it is just getting.
And now I'm going to place my stencil right in the middle. Just going to
On a blanket with the skyline painted in blue. Ooh.
and I'm just lightly taping it down. I'm not pressing on the tape because I don't want it to damage the paper.
It will always be Christmas in my heart.
Now careful with not too much paint. I'm going to sponge it on. And the stencil brush I'm using is from the Dollar Tree. Dip it and then take as much paint off as possible so I don't have too much paint on it.
Have a good time, dance, dance. All night long we're gonna dance, dance. And have a good time. I think Santa's gonna come and join us in this song. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the windows in the rain is pouring.
Alright, and now for the reveal. Oh, I love it. I love it. Now I just have to fill in where the tape was.
Hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sand. You and me. Doesn't matter, it is Christmas in my heart.
Okay. So that's that. And now I'm going to I wanted to put an arrow here as well. If you see on the design there was an arrow, I just didn't cut it out because I figured I can probably do one myself.
We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Okay. There, and now once it dries, I'm going to add a rope, which I forgot to show you. I'm just gonna grab it. So this is like a nautical rope or jute rope. And I'm just going to cut it to size. And I'm also going to make this a little bit shorter. There. There we go. And the nice thing about having that little hole there is I can thread my rope through it.
We'll be chilling.
I'm going to take this long piece of wood and just push the rope through.
All the windows in the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year,
And tie a loop. And I'll show you what it looks all hung up. Looks like all hung up.
So here it is, all hung up. I think it looks really, really good. And for very little cost comparing to what the other one cost at the store, I couldn't be more pleased.
I went with something completely different with my project here. I went with a more of a boho style versus the farmhouse look that I've been doing all along. But when I saw this project on the Etsy shop, well, actually an item for sale on Etsy shop, I absolutely fell in love and had to recreate it. So I'm starting off with an artist panel, the wooden one, and I am doing absolutely nothing to it. You could stain it, you could paint it. I just love the natural look of it, so I'm sticking with that. And then I take the yarn and I wrap it around my arm until all of my full length of my fingers is covered. That's kind of my measurement. And then so I'm kind of creating a bit of I guess you would call it a tassel, and you will need 15 of these. So I tied the top, creating a bit of a head on top, and then I cut the hooped part just so they're all hanging individually down, not hooped up. I hope that makes sense. So like I said, I repeat this project 15 times, this part 15 times. And once I am done, I pretty much almost used the whole yarn. You can see the piece that's left. I take a piece of just a little branch that I had, and then I kind of place where I want things to go. So at the bottom I am putting 5, then I follow with 4, 3, and 1. This was very simple to make, however it took some time to create those tassels, because you had to do it 15 times. If you went with a smaller artist panel, you can definitely cut the amount of tassels you need, hence the amount of time that it takes to make it.
Making our Christmas memories. I've been wrapping presents for you. I've been hanging marbles in the tree. And I've lit my house with Christmas lights, so you should come back home to me. And when we wake up in the morning, I'm gonna play those carols that you love. We'll be singing.
So I am going to be making a little sign, because it is what I do. I love making signs. I am using this cheese board from Dollarama. This was, I believe, $4. I have a different setup on the back. I was originally going to buy a new one, but then I thought, well, why not just use the back of it? I'm not using it for anything else. So I am repurposing, well, not repurposing, just using it another way. And then I'm going to use acrylic paint in Christmas green, in black, and in deep red. So you need some paint brushes. Oh, and I also am using some white chalk paint by Rust-Oleum. I'm still having a hard time finding this brand's white acrylic paint. The dollar stores still don't have them. And then I also have 2 stencils that I will be using. This one was cut with Cricut, and then this one was cut with a heating tool, stencil heating tool, I think it's called. My friend made this one for me. So
First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this board with black acrylic paint, and I'm going to completely cover it. Yesterday over on my home channel, I shared Kristen's in July home tour. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, head on over to that channel. Yeah, I have it linked down below, and it's just called Domestic Diva Home, where I will be showcasing and displaying most of the DIYs that I make on this channel, since I make most of them for my home decor. And that's what that channel is all about: home decor and cleaning and decorating. Okay, so that is fully covered. I'm going to let this dry, and then when it's dry, I'm going to add my stencils on it. So this had some time to dry, and now I'm going to do a little bit of a lines on here for just to give the board a little bit more dimension. Just about done with this. Paint still kind of working through it. See, I'm not crazy about the way it looks. With that, I'm gonna try and use my, actually I might do my white, if I find it, chalkboard marker. Going to use a bit of a sander just to smooth it out a little bit, blend it in. Okay, now I'm going to stencil on my Merry Christmas, and for that I'm gonna go with my off-white, my Annie Sloan original. It's a little messy, but I will clean it out with some black paint. And then I'm going to put Christmas right here. So I'm just going to tighten up the lines a little bit. And I'm going to try and use my white marker for that. so now I'm going to do the truck. I just want to make sure that it fits properly. I think this is the best fit. Okay, so for the tires, I'm going to go with white. Okay, and then for the rest, I'm gonna go with red. Okay. There we go. I think that turned out pretty good. And I'm just going to take my black and tighten up the lines again. Okay, so that's that. And now I'm going to paint on a little Christmas tree with my green paint. I hope I do a pretty good job. I'm not the greatest painter. There we go. I think that looks really good. So here it is. I think this turned out really nice. I love the little red truck. It is one of my favorite elements of decorating for Christmas. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you share it with a friend if that's something that they would enjoy. And if you're brand new stopping by, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss out any of my future uploads. So until next time, hope you guys have a wonderful day and thank you so much for watching.
Melodies until the sun comes up.